You can't beat the classics.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Dude, we got, holy shit, 10 episodes of You Can't Beat the Classics so far. So yeah, George and Mike are with me, as always. What's up, guys?
What's going on? Sorry, I think Ray's trying to join today, too.
Hey, guys.
The dog wants in on this. Yeah, man, so we're here for episode 10. Holy shit, I can't believe it's been that many episodes. I'm excited about this one. I think we all been excited about this movie here. George is streaming on his Twitch. Put it right here, Bison Madness, twitch.tv/Bison Madness. And I think you got a 24-hour stream going right now, George, right?
Yep. So we got about 16 people in chat. Whether they like it or not, they're about to get a review of Boondock Saints, but I'm sure there will be some commentary.
This is one a lot of people, I think, remember. So yeah, let's just get right into it here. So we're going to be talking about 1999's The Boondock Saints, directed by Troy Duffy. So, do you guys remember the first time you saw the Boondock Saints?
Unfortunately.
Uh-oh, that's not
I saw it on
promising.
DVD.
These are not promising first-time watches.
I think so. I was at my first drinking party, and they said, "Let's throw on a movie," and it was The Boondock Saints. So that's how I saw it. So I ended up puking.
Be like an 8 Mile situation, but reversed?
I loved it.
Okay, no, okay.
Okay.
I had to rent it the next day because I puked the entire time the end was going on. So I don't even know how it ended, and I was just like, no, I need to know how it ends. Back when Blockbuster was a thing.
Yeah, dude, I saw this movie for the first time like at least like 10 years ago, something like that. Yeah, I remember it pretty well, but I'm going to describe it more as we get through the movie. But first things first, we got to watch the trailer for the movie.
On the streets of Boston.
This was no gangland assassination. It was way too sloppy. Something went wrong here.
An FBI agent is on a case.
All the lowlifes in the quiet city of Boston start dropping dead, and you think it's unrelated.
They're all bad guys. Now they're all dead bad guys.
The victims are the mob.
What we have here, gentlemen, is the beginning of the first international mob war.
And the hitmen think they're on a mission from God.
The stock music in this.
You think is evil. Don't you think that's a little weird, a little psycho?
Sort of like 7-Eleven. We're not always doing business, but we're always open.
That is nicely put. There was 2 shooters.
Fan-freaking-tastic.
This guy's very sharp. He hasn't figured us out yet, he will.
All we know is what we found out from the neighbors. And the consensus is they're angels.
In a place where the violent have the power.
Destroy all that which is evil, so that which is good may flourish.
One lawman doesn't know whether to catch the killers
I believe what they do is necessary.
or join them.
All the things I wish I could do, these guys are doing.
With every breath, we shall hunt them down. Each day, we will spill their blood.
There was a firefight!
Yes!
Wow, they ended that. That was a sudden ending.
Yeah, very sudden.
Yeah, that trailer doesn't really...
I think there's something missing from that trailer.
It wants you to take the perspective of Willem Dafoe when the whole time it should have been pitching it towards the boys.
Yeah, I think Willem Dafoe is definitely the biggest name because this is pre Walking Dead for Norman Reedus.
I'm gonna argue that with you. Willem Dafoe is definitely the most known actor in that movie.
Oh yeah,
But Ron Jeremy's the biggest name in that movie.
Oh my god, dude! I forgot he was in this. I'm like, is that Ron Jeremy?
Oh yeah. Dude, when I met, like this is kind of like I met Ron Jeremy in Las Vegas during the American the American like porn awards or something like that. And the only thing I asked him about was this movie. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, dude,
Really?
I'm a huge fan. Boondock Saints, and he was just like, yeah, one of the top 10 moments of my career, and I was like,
Top 10? Oh, okay.
I mean, how many porn
Great
actors
movie.
actually get to do like a real movie?
Sasha Grey was a star in Entourage.
It's true.
Yeah, dude, I totally forgot he was in this movie until I saw it again, like just the other day. So that was a weird surprise.
So, sorry, I was sort of muting myself just in case someone joined the Discord. No, but like I get marketing wise, when you hear the description in that trailer, it just doesn't sound like the movie The Boondock Saints, though. Like it even feels like they didn't know what they have, even when they finished making it. They didn't know what they had, and like I rewatching the trailer because I didn't watch this movie again for this because I've seen it. I saw it 2 weeks ago, just because it's free now on Amazon.
Yep.
I watched it 2 weeks ago, and I remembered when I graduated high school, I wanted my first tattoos to be the Equitas Veritas on my fingers, but like business, so I couldn't. But like the boys were the most iconic part of it. The cat story. I mean, not to get ahead. I won't get ahead. But I think the boys were iconic, and Willem Dafoe, while amazing and probably Oscar worthy, if you revolved it around him, I feel like you weren't doing the movie justice.
Yeah. I'll also say too, before we hop into anything, this movie is the definition of a cult classic, right? Because I'm just looking at the numbers now. $6 million budget estimated. You know what its opening weekend stats were?
Probably $500K.
Less than $20,000.
Wow.
Its opening weekend, it made less than $20,000. It grossed in the U.S. and Canada at $30,500. So this movie literally bombed. It was a massive bomb.
Dude,
I
they really didn't know what they had.
I wonder how much the DVD sales were.
Yeah,
I would love to go back and see.
Things. This movie caught fire after it was out of theaters when it got to DVD, and I think half of it is this trailer. This trailer was complete garbage. It kind of like
the trailer's not great.
It shows you that there's going to be fighting. It shows you that people are like have this divine mission to do whatever, but like there's no Rocco in it. And Rocco's like the star of this movie in my mind. Like there's just like a lot of stuff that's just missing. Like you said, John. There's just stuff missing from this trailer, and I think that's the picture that was painted for what this movie was completely missed. Less than $20,000 on an opening weekend is like I don't even know how to describe.
That's like releasing it at a high school only.
Yeah, wild.
But
so
like
this movie is essentially an indie film though that has like pretty decent names to it. And then it just kind of took off after it was out of the theaters. I'm
surprised they didn't try, because it looks like the release date was just like a random day in January. I was wondering, I was like, why not save it for St. Patrick's Day that year, which I'm surprised by.
Dude, I'm telling you, the only person who probably had any sort of finger on the pulse of this movie was the director. And Willem Dafoe.
Troy Duffy was the director of this.
Willem Dafoe absolutely crushed this. And like if anyone wants to talk about Oscar push, this movie would have been an Oscar pushing type thing if it had a $20 million budget and $14 million of it went towards marketing.
I don't think in 1999 that Willem Dafoe's character in this movie would have gone for an Oscar. And it's only because of like the openly gay status, actively mocking and like gay bashing, and the cross-dressing stuff later on in the movie. Like I only think like that stuff in 1999 was so outlandish that it just wouldn't have happened. Today, sure. Then no.
Oh, there's no way this movie could have been re-released today. There's no way.
No. Dude, Dude, they want to make Boondock Saints 3, which I think they're starting to film later this year. But I'm like, all right, you gotta not do stuff they did in this movie.
And also, just to add to that, in 1999, Ed Norton was nominated for American History X. So,
Yeah,
Oh,
but
wow.
like the gay thing and the racial thing are two completely different stuff, in my opinion.
well, we don't need to dive into that, but I would argue there's grounds where he could have potentially made an Oscar push, or at least been in the conversation. But you're right. And not to dive too deep into political bullshit right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I just truly don't think anyone knew what they had with this movie. And it, like, being from Boston, you know, we're just gonna round up there. Being from Boston, and like, the only movies you really had to hang your hat on at the time are like, do we even have any? Like, there's Rocky for Philadelphia. Did Fever Pitch? No, Fever Pitch came out in 2004.
Yeah. So, okay.
But like,
after the World Series run, yeah.
Like, I don't even think there was a good Boston movie. Like, New York has all these mob movies and everything. There wasn't a good Boston movie, and it's like we had Whitey Bulger. We had some good material here.
Yeah.
And like, people just didn't know how to handle it. Like, it's not a comedy and it's not a drama, but it's kind of both.
Actually, like, its listings in Amazon are comedy action thriller.
Well, that's fucking cheating.
Dude, that's pretty much like we don't know how to categorize this.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a tough film to categorize.
I mean, it's a comedy at heart. It's a comedy at heart, but I think its writing is better than like just a regular slapstick comedy. It has really good writing.
So I think now we'll get down to the beginning of it. So we see St. Patrick's Day in Boston, a familiar town to the three of us. We're met in a church, and like nobody's questioning, just these two just going right up to the altar during this mass.
Yeah. Except for the guest parishioner.
Yeah.
So he's like getting up to stop them, and everyone's like, no. Those guys, you don't stop.
The Saints.
Like, as far as an intro, like not too much. You're the beginning of the movie, not too much. I mean, you see two guys that are obviously religious. They're Irish. They work in a meat packing plant. But I mean, so if you didn't see the trailer, you would be like, "Where's this going?"
Yeah,
I think right at the start.
The trailer's all about Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe doesn't come in until, what, half an hour, 25 minutes into this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, after you see the ordeal with the Russians, which comes up like almost right after this.
One more thing I want to say before we keep diving in about the trailer is like, and I kind of put this subtly out there, was Entourage. This could have been like a drama Entourage, where in Entourage you have Johnny Drama, you have Vinny Chase, you have E, you have Turtle, you have Ari, you have like 5 main characters, but there isn't really one main character because every episode it's different, right? Or whatever. That's kind of what you have here, and they could have pivoted like the trailer that way, where Rocco's a maniac, the brothers are their own thing. Willem Dafoe is like Robin Williams on crack in this movie. Like, you have 4, potentially 5 if you want to count the dad, real pivotal main characters who act their ass off. And I think that's where they fucked up. That's how I would have pivoted it. So stream tomorrow, I will be editing the Entourage trailer with all 5 Boondock Saints. Anyway.
Yeah. And then it's really just a minor build, from when we see them to when they start having this problem with the Russians. First, you're met with a bunch of things about who they are personally. You see where they sleep, which I thought was a very strange setup. As far as I'm like, is this an apartment? Is this a back? Because from later exposition in the movie, this is like the 5th floor, the 5th or 4th floor of a building. So I was wondering, where do they? What kind of place is this?
Of an abandoned building.
Yeah, it looks, dude. Honestly, it looks a lot like the place I first saw this movie.
Was
Like,
it that
I was
East Providence Theater?
dude, no, like somebody's like house, dude.
Oh,
I was like rolling like with like the wrong people like
nice.
back then. So like I remember that's why I remember seeing this movie so well. So I was like, wow, that's like where I saw the movie.
John, how old are you?
30.
Okay. Chat was just wondering.
Yeah. Oh,
They
okay.
know Mike. They know me. Now
Yeah.
they want to know you.
All right. Yeah, I just hit 30. But yeah, they're trying to have fun at this bar, which I thought, dude, this guy that runs the bar, Doc, hilarious.
Yeah.
He's not trying to be funny, but it's
We need to buy you
hilarious.
a book of Proverbs. What's the line? I actually wrote it down. Glass houses sink ships.
Just fucking what?
And this is the other part of it, like the perfect writing, right? Because you throw a dude who has a stutter, and
No, this dude had Tourette's.
Oh yes, yeah.
Dude,
He had a stutter, he had Tourette's, he had all the stuff, and he couldn't get to the Proverbs right. And like to him being a bartender, you're like, yeah, I could see this dude being a bartender at a dive bar that I would go to in Boston or wherever.
Yeah, for sure. We've all been to that bar.
Yeah. Yeah, these Russians show up and they break up. They pretty much break up the going away party for the bar. This is one of the things I liked about the movie. I liked the idea of, you make the cut there, and then you show. I mean, that's what Willem Dafoe's purpose of the movie is. But then you show like how he figured it, how it happened through his explanation, which I thought was cool.
I think the most wild part about that cut, right? So there's like, yeah, pull up and have a beer or whatever, like whatever. And then the next cut is the same dudes who are like really well dressed, these big guys, and one of them has like no seat in his pants, and the other dude has like a bandage wrapped around his head, and they're like just dead in the alleyway. And you're like, a lot had to happen in between the last time we saw these guys and like the 30-second cut to this scene where we're now seeing them in completely different stage.
To be honest, the first time I watched the movie, that was what kept me in it, was him dot walking everything back in his head. And just I'm older now, so I'll use the word cinematography of it was great. But yeah, the writing, like, okay, here's the end, and now you have to figure out how we got here, but he figures it all out for you, and they show it. I don't know. It was like a mini mystery within the movie.
Let's also interject here too. Young Bob Marley. I don't. Some of you that aren't from like the Northeast might not know who Bob Marley is, but he's a really big comedian in our area, and he's the detective, the local detective that's on the scene when they're handing the case off to the FBI, who was Willem Dafoe. But his analysis of the crime scene.
Was he Greenlee?
Yeah, he's Greenlee. That's Bob Marley.
Oh, this dude, yeah. Some huge freaking guy.
Yeah, just a fucking huge guy. Like, he must have been like, I don't know, like 8 foot tall, like 400 pounds. Comes in and he's just crushing guys, right? So his breakdown of the crime scene, you're like, this dude is just like the guy in the department who doesn't give a shit anymore. But then Willem Dafoe comes in and he's like, I already know what happened here. But I think you take like this really goofy guy, this comedian, and you put him next to this dude who's just all serious, 100% work all the time, and their relationship is just hilarious. Because the FBI guy walks on the scene, he just makes him go get him a coffee. Just really brushes him off entirely. Just really, really good writing, really funny stuff.
But like that's also too how like people perceive people from Boston. He like encapsulated it, and it's like, to be honest, if you walk in Boston, you're gonna run into 3, 4, 5, 6, however many of those types of guys. They're all in Boston. It's not a stereotype. It's fucking real.
Like, and on top of that too, so we'll go over the numbers again. This movie had a budget of $6 million. On opening weekend, it made $20,000, less than $20,000. But if you meet someone and they do the where are you going? Hey pal, where are you going? Nowhere. That absolutely quoted by so many people, and they might not even know that it comes from this movie.
Yeah. I mean, dude, the Rotten Tomato gave it a 28, but the audience gave it a 91.
Yeah.
That's got to be one of the biggest gaps in Rotten Tomato.
Yeah, you see a lot of those gaps with I think like cult movies, like cult classics like this.
Well, like Green Street Hooligans is a similar movie. It's 47 on Rotten Tomatoes, but it's an 87 by the audience. So like you see that. You're right. It's not that common, but like 70 points. That's a big gap.
Yeah.
It can't get much bigger than that.
I'm wondering what stopped people like from seeing the movie like when it came out. Like I don't know if it was because we're talking about the end of 1999 here, so I don't know if people were like Y2K like scared people or like I don't like.
Well, that's
like,
Oscar push, right? That's Oscar push season. So all the big Oscar movies are. You got to remember too. In 1999, everyone's renting movies at Blockbuster. They're not really. The movies were okay, but they were dying for a little bit there because Netflix came out. I want to say 2001, maybe a little earlier. But like the movies were dying. They weren't doing well. And then around 2007, 2006, they started making a comeback. When Netflix fully killed Blockbuster. That's when cinema came back. And that's why the pandemic, everyone's like, well, what the fuck, man? Now movies are on the ropes again.
I'll bring this up again because you already made this comparison too. So to compare it, the end of 1998 is when American History X came out. $20 million budget. Opening weekend was $156,000. So you like big movie, huge movie.
Yeah.
Didn't make anything in the theaters. This movie, a fourth of the budget, made less than $20,000. So it's really hard to tell what's going to make Oscar pushes based on the budget, right? Because this one here was big. This one was a small movie. American History X being a big movie, they both really didn't perform in the theater. So it's a product of its time.
Domestic DVD sales of the movie to date is $20 million, and it was released on DVD in 2002. So it's about 20 years. It's made $1 million every year.
Which is kind of wild, too, because that's a 2 or 3 year gap in between the movie releasing in theaters to coming out on DVD.
Bro, it lost them $5 million. Why would you put it to DVD?
Well, dude,
they fucking did.
Well, the turnaround of like theater to DVD or VHS or not was really wide back then.
Yeah, now, I mean, it was like a year usually, but you're not.
Now it's way shorter than that. It's like months. But back then, I knew the gap was a lot larger.
Yeah.
But all right. So back to the movie. But like Smecker.
Well, do you remember why it was a lot larger? It was a lot larger because they had to get the movies to Blockbuster first.
Okay.
So they got the movies to Blockbuster, so you couldn't buy it, and you had to rent them at Blockbuster. And then when Blockbuster died, that's when everything started coming out 2 months, 3 months, because they had no ties to Netflix. They had no ties to anyone. There was no exclusives. It was just out.
Okay.
Because Blockbuster, when they first came out, were going to local stores and buying out the stock of hit movies and renting them. And then assuming people would just keep them and then charge them. Hence the late fees and all the other fees. Yeah. Now, the more you know. Anyway, back to the movie.
Yeah, so Smecker, the detective, he manages to figure everything out. And meanwhile, the Saints are in this hospital, and they talk to Doc, the bartender, and I don't know. It's like, is Tourette's not supposed to be funny? Because I've always found it like this is pre-Tourette's guy. So I always thought it was funny.
So I feel like it all depends on how you use, right? Because like Tourette's is obviously like a real mental illness that's that's really serious. But like they made this guy have Tourette's for a comedic effect. Like they didn't. This guy could have just been like a dumb bartender, but they gave him like a an ailment that made him more funny and relatable.
Yeah, you're supposed to love the dude.
The fact that they're in a Catholic hospital, he's running around yelling "fuck ass."
That became an insult in my high school after we saw this movie. Was fuck ass. Yeah.
That was spread out around here too.
And then the fucking tree joke was one that never went away either.
Oh yeah.
Like a tree and get the fuck out of here. Like, excuse me, sir, you did not tell that right. But no, Tourette's is not supposed to be funny, but there are streamers who have Tourette's and they kind of use it to their advantage. Because if you use it in a loving way, yeah, of course it's funny. But if you're, if you come from a place of hate, anything coming from a place of hate is just not going to be accepted.
Yeah.
But I definitely laughed my ass off every time he spoke. I wanted more of the bartender.
Yeah, and it's true though. You only see him like the first 15 minutes of this movie. You see him at his bar, and then you see him again when he's bringing the clothes to the guys, or when he's talking to the guys at the hospital, and then that's it. He's done.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't even think he was in the second one.
No.
But now,
I think he died.
Yeah, they went to his funeral.
Oh, okay. So now they end up back at the police station, which they got into wicked easily, by the way. But this is the big question for me for the movie really starts here, because like Smecker's like the first to say like these two are not heroes, but yet he's the one that ends up supporting them the most in the long run.
I think the preface for them is like they know that they're going to turn themselves in. They know that they've been found. Like they know immediately when the guy goes to the bar and leaves the card for these two that he knows what's going on. So he knew also that they were going to say it was self-defense going into it. And then when they explain the story, they explain it like, yeah, we had a bar fight. And then they came after us to kill us, so we defended ourselves. And I think that's where this whole thing starts. Because when you also look down the line of this movie, too, he knows that the two guys killed these Russian guys who are obviously mob affiliated. Then all these other mob deaths happen later on in the movie, spoiler, that he doesn't link them all.
That's what I said. That's what I said throughout the entire movie. I'm like, okay, you got two guys, they kill somebody in the Russian crime syndicate, and then a bunch of other ones, like not Russian ones, but other mob-related ones happen, like a bunch of them, and you don't link it back to these guys.
You don't think at all it's going to go back to these guys?
Well, or it seems like they have no idea, but I thought, like, I was also thinking in my mind, I'm like, what if Smecker knows, but he's like letting them do it?
Yeah, he's giving them the wink.
Yeah, he's turning a blind eye and letting the Boondock Saints like kill off all these bad people.
All right, so like not to go too far down the movie though, but like you have to assume that that's not true because at a certain, we'll get to it, but he literally goes insane. At one of the crime scenes, he literally goes insane because he can't figure out who it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like if he knew when he was given the silent nod, he would just be like, "Who is it?"
Yeah. So that makes he really doesn't know, which I'm also surprised by, because you literally just had something similar happen, and you talked to and you saw who did it.
Yeah.
You know.
So the two Russian guys are dead. Smecker figures it out. They find the shell casings and blah blah blah. We also then figure out that these dudes during their interrogation, they speak 7 languages or something like that.
What are you guys doing working at a meat plant?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny though, because like they're having conversations, and the first thing they say to each other is in
it was like Gaelic. Yeah.
And then they switch over to French, and then they switch over to Spanish, and then they also do it in
Italian, German. Yep.
So like they're like, because like all this stuff is happening, you're like, wow, these guys, it's pretty wild. These like dudes, just regular dudes, speak 7 languages, which is really cool. And then they get the call on the Russian guy's pager, and then they left him a message in Russian, and he was able to translate it. So obviously, he speaks Russian.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that whole thing is really funny, like a really funny story arc too. But.
Yeah, dude. So my favorite part of the movie too was how this bar fight was happening, and I really, really liked this action sequence. When he essentially lifts up a toilet, he goes all the way up to the top of the building, drops the toilet on this dude, and then he jumps off the building.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that with the way the music with that scene too and all that, I thought it was really well done. I did raise an eyebrow. I was like, he just jumped off of a building and he didn't like break anything.
I think he did.
Maybe he did. Like he landed on that guy, which I know was like that had to.
Like, he knocked himself out. Like he had to get carried away from the scene, and then they went to the hospital, and he was.
So at least he was knocked out, which made sense.
So there's a lot going on there.
But definitely my favorite part of the movie was right there.
Yeah, I also think it's really funny. Like the media is idolizing him immediately, and they were like, "Well, we don't want to leave. Can we stay here tonight?"
It's okay if your friends sleep over.
Yeah, like what do you say to that? Like, I guess.
I think it's funny.
I just thought it was weird that they were like, it was like immediately like the picture painted for them was heroes.
Yeah.
Like right away. And then
they handed them the newspaper the next day and they called them the Saints of Boston or something like that.
Yeah, which was weird because like they didn't kill off, like they killed off some bad dudes, but they didn't kill like the head of the snake.
Yeah. They didn't end the crime in Boston.
Yeah, they didn't put a stop to the Russian crime syndicate. So, but then he ends up writing that info down from that Russian guy, and this is where we start. This is where we see Ron Jeremy, and the Rocco, which I always thought Rocco is a tough character for me because I'm like, well, the first time I saw this movie, my honest thought in my head when I saw him, I was like, is that Dave Grohl? Because he looks like Dave Grohl.
At first.
Yeah, but then you realize, this dude's real name is like David Della Rocco, so they just used his last name as his character name.
Yeah, they got a little lazy.
So,
like,
I'll say this character might have been like an afterthought in the writing too, because they might have been like, yeah, these guys just kind of do their own thing with the mob, right? Yeah. But then like they added this guy in, number one, comedic effect, but it also bridged the mob world into them, right? Because without Rocco, they don't know who the people are, where they're going to be. So I think at one point they're like, okay, so they're just going to happenstance into all these situations and take care of mob people. But then they're like, it doesn't make it really flow well, so let's add this dude in. And they're like, oh yeah, his name's Del Rocco, so let's just make him Rocco, right?
He was an afterthought. He was supposed to be Norman Reedus' character. Well, he auditioned for Norman Reedus' character, and then they were like, God, no. And they wrote him in halfway through production. They were like, hey, come back.
I love him. I think Rocco's hilarious. He gets, he's on the good side with the mob. He's on the good side with our buddies here. Until stuff happens later on in the movie. But I thought his character was great.
Yeah, he's all right. I'll get into him a little bit more with something that happens with him later on. He's trying to tell this joke to this guy is the big fish. This Papa Joe, I forget the name of the crime family. But these dudes laughed way too hard at this joke.
I mean, it's funny. It would never pass in any movie these days. It's very racist.
Yeah. Oh, it wasn't. I didn't think it was like distasteful or anything like that. I was just like,
oh, it's very distasteful.
It's extreme. Oh, it is now. Today's standards, extremely.
But I mean, I've heard this joke outside of this movie. Like,
okay.
This spoke to me outside of this movie. So, like, I don't know if it's a common known joke or whatever, but I mean, I've heard this joke before. It's
Yeah.
it's of its time. I'll say it's of its time.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm still giggling thinking about it.
I just think it's funny though. Like he's trying so hard to deliver this joke. He's trying so hard, and he realizes that he's screwing it up so bad that he actually stops telling the joke, and his boss puts down what he's eating, and he's like,
Continue the joke.
"Finish your joke." and then he just delivers it so like.
But this is why I'm saying, bro, this movie would get canceled in a heartbeat.
100%. 100%. If not for that joke, but all the
I literally wrote
the N words.
Yeah, this movie would never get made today. I wrote a rating.
Nope.
Never.
No,
It would never get made.
between the racial slurs, homophobic slurs.
Yeah, and this is the part too. So like right after this scene, it cuts over to Willem Dafoe getting a call about
Oh my god.
about another murder, and the dude is like cuddling with him and like smooching him on the chest,
He's like,
and he like slaps him in the face. He's like, "What are you doing?"
George is dying.
I just wanted to cuddle, he says.
Funny.
I mean, when he calls him after that, you know, whatever. But
That's what I'm saying though. So like openly gay, like there's no questions in your point.
Oh yeah,
guy's gay, right? And then he's just like, oh, you know, he just he starts gay bashing.
Dude, that's fun. Dude, for this part, I wrote, wow, imagine if this movie were made now.
Yeah, so it's right around this time. Like, this sequence of like 2, maybe 3 scenes in a row, you're just like, yeah, this movie would never. Like, someone would read this thing and be like, okay, I want to change a few things.
I mean, I'm not. Never mind. I'm not gonna touch it. I was gonna defend it, but that's not the hill I'm ready to die on. It's not the hill I'm ready to die on.
They're bigger battles, George.
Yeah, not all heroes wear capes. Yeah. I mean, like, I will say, in the 90s, that was something we quoted too. Afterwards.
Yeah.
That movie quote, like, it's not hateful. It's just fucking funny.
Yeah.
The irony is just fucking funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, writing.
The irony of that joke is hilarious. Anyone watching on stream and you want to know what we're talking about, just go to YouTube. It's probably a 30-second clip. Type in Willem Dafoe, gay, and Boondock Saints, and it'll probably be the first thing that pops up. It's him in bed cuddling with another guy.
If not that, then maybe a scene. Maybe it's probably a scene later on in the movie that we haven't even got to yet.
That one's a little less obvious, though. That one's a little less obvious because that could have been any bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this one here, I mean, it's obvious, but it's a little like if you're unknowing of the scene, it could be a little less obvious.
Yeah.
This one is very direct. It's really funny. So then, yeah.
This is where he got the call. That's where he got the call from. But like they're in some fancy building now. So like the McManus brothers literally just killed off like 8 like Russian guys.
They're like high level bosses and like syndicate leaders. They're not like just the mob guys. They're like the faction leaders and like the people who give the orders.
Yeah. So like they were like doing some like they were crawling up in the vents stuff, which Willem Dafoe acknowledges like people don't do this.
This is
it worked out well for them because they managed to whack all those guys. This was one line that always stuck with me too. It kind of makes me feel like river dancing. I always remember that one.
And he actually like river dances. There's the dead body laying right in front of him, and I actually rewound it to watch it back twice. He actually kicks the dude's elbow at one point during the scene, and really? And the dead body is like, you know, it's an actor playing a dead body, but like you can tell he's just like, motherfucker, kick me in the elbow.
And then Rocco walks in, which I thought, wait, when I first saw the movie too, I was like, wait, why is Rocco there? I was like, oh, Rocco's getting his big break, but I mean, it turns out not to be.
Right.
But then they start messing with him. I think they go back to Rocco's place.
Yeah.
And they get
But
wasted.
you find out too, like they make it pretty obvious to us, right? So Rocco shows up there. You can tell this is his big chance to get into the Italian mob.
Yeah.
He shows up to like a Russian family syndicate meeting where there's 9 people with a 6-shooter pistol. So they didn't even give him the right equipment to get the job done. They pretty much sent Rocco in there to send a message and die.
Yep.
It's obvious to us, but it's not obvious to Rocco at this point.
Yeah, like he doesn't figure it out until it's too late for him. Now they're back at Rocco's place and they're just hanging out,
Getting
you know, and just getting wasted. This poor cat, man. They didn't even see it coming.
Yeah, so this scene to me will forever stand out in any movie I ever watch as the most like blindsided scene of all time. Right? Okay, they're getting hammered. Oh yeah, the cat's
It's the most sobering moment ever.
Dude, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, he just slams his hands down, hits the gun that's on the table, and it just vaporizes the cat. It vaporizes. Like the cat doesn't even exist on the screen after this point.
Yeah.
It's wild.
This is where they really put like Rocco's the funny man. Like they really put like the funny man line in this part for him. Yeah. Is it dead?
Is it dead?
Yeah.
And then the callback to it later when the chick comes home. Hey, where's my cat?
Your cat? I killed your cat, bitch. And then he's like, oh, that's the best part. He's like, I will shoot myself in the fucking head if you can tell me that's cat's name. And then he's like, mother bitch, what color was it? Dude, this is really so
Rocco's crazy.
Yeah.
To say the least. He's not smart and he's crazy.
So I wrote down in this part, Rocco is a wild card and I'm here for it. Like, because you just never know what's going to happen with Rocco.
Yeah. Yeah, this dude's a loose cannon.
Yeah.
Like, it even shows, like, right after this part, like, he just goes, like, he walks into that deli, and, I mean, he finds out, like, that's where his, like, moment of clarity is, like, that, like...
So the guys tell him, like, hey, like, they knew that you weren't walking out of this thing alive. They were going to make you that fall guy. They were going to make you the example, you know? And he's like, nah, my boss wouldn't do that. Nah, that wouldn't happen. And then that's when this part in the deli happens.
I don't think there's any exposition as to why they killed that guy behind the counter. Like, he just did it.
Because they said he knew. He knew before.
He was just a witness. He knew before.
Yeah, so like the Vincenzo guy, the Ron Jeremy's character, was walking around telling everyone that Rocco's going there and die, and like Rocco, we're sending Rocco in to take care of some stuff, but he's not making it out. So they told the guy behind the counter, and then the other 2 guys that were like obviously
okay. Yeah, so he just killed all 3 of these guys at this deli.
Pop.
Now, well, we're at the next place where the Boondock Saints strike. This part. I mean, I think this was before the internet. So literally, what I wrote down here too, I was like, so this Vincenzo guy specifically went to this place to rub one out. I was like, but then I thought in my head, I'm like, all right, no internet yet. So I guess that's what you had to do.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it fitting that Ron Jeremy's character? It's fitting that Ron Jeremy's character.
I knew that like he was going to be probably the one doing it.
I wish I was an adult so I could elaborate more on that. I don't know.
They kill everybody, all 3 guys in this. But you know what? Nobody's complaining.
Yeah,
Nobody's complaining that these guys are getting whacked off.
And it's funny too because like in the deli, when he's asking about witnesses in the story and who can corroborate, he's like, "Well, all the witnesses are dead." And then the guy was like, "Well, it was seen by dozens of people, but no one's talking." So like the community is behind these these characters being taken out, but we don't find out about the guys who are dead in the deli until after they tell us about the guys in the strip club.
Mm-hmm.
Like we know about it, but Willem Dafoe's character doesn't, because they were like, "Oh, it was done with a different caliber gun, and it was Italian guys, it wasn't Russian guys," and he was like, "You didn't think that was related?" Which is really great.
Yeah, like this is where they find out they made the connection too. Like, hey, they're all bad guys. Meanwhile, this Italian mob takes action, and they get this. I don't know who's more of a maniac, this guy or Rocco. Like they get this dude out on parole.
El Duce,
the Duke. They get him out just to go take out Rocco, and then whoever's with him.
Because at this time, the Italian mob just thinks it's Rocco.
Right.
Rocco took the credit for that hit of all the Russians.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, you sent me in there with a 6-shooter. Well, I went in there and took care of it anyway.
I think this is where Rocco and the Saints, they go into that poker game to find that one guy that Rocco has been describing as like the worst.
Yeah, the hitman.
Yeah.
Whatever they call him.
Well, there's a lot of dudes at this poker game too.
And all of them guns.
Yeah, all of them did. And then, we see another play-by-play from Willem Dafoe. This is probably the most memorable of all the times that he's done it throughout the movie so far.
This is also the breaking point for Willem Dafoe too.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a fire.
Legendary.
Well. So he's trying to piece it together with this one. One interesting thing, the Saints knew by putting ammonia in the blood that they would mess it up for them, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. To speak of the blood effects. The blood was a little too red. It was a little too watery. So like the blood itself was not great, but it's a production thing. But yeah, I mean, they did the research to know that if they sprayed the ammonia on it, it would get rid of the evidence. So they had to know that there was going to be traces of their own blood at some point because they had that stuff ready.
Yeah. But the one thing that they overlooked was Rocco got his finger shot off. they didn't think to go find it.
Dude, it's pretty wild though, because during that scene he's like, "Oh fuck, my finger," and then he's like trying to like crawl around and find it, and they were like, "Forget about it, like let's just go." Like today they're like, "Oh shit, my finger got shot off." Like I know they're gonna be able to get prints off of it, but none of them really even cared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of adrenaline too, so I'm sure. But still, I think like if you lose a finger or something like that, isn't the best thing? You got to bring it with you. Like
we couldn't find it.
Yeah,
not even with the Prince thing, but like if you, I don't know how it works. Like if you want that finger back,
yeah, but they were getting fucked up,
too, right? So like, say you lose
dude was messing them up.
Well, say you lose your finger. Let's just say, like hypothetically, and I think this might be more along the lines: someone shoots off your finger, or you cut off a finger, or something like that, or someone cuts off a finger. When you bring it to the hospital, the first thing that's going to happen is be like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
So then the cops are like, okay, if we found a lot of blood, let's check local hospitals and see if anyone had any weird injuries. And that's one of those things that just pops up, right? So maybe you don't bring it in, maybe you don't go to the hospital, and you can tell they didn't go to the hospital. In the next scene, they're literally at someone's house with a hot iron, cauterizing their wounds. And it's like there's like really like special intimate moment between all three of them, which is like really weird.
Yeah, your turn.
Yeah. They're taking turns, like, just cauterizing each other's wounds with a hot iron.
Dude, yeah, that was the thing. I think they muted the sound on those parts, but I was like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on. So this is also Willem Dafoe is like he's not kept like in the very first scene. He has his tie on, he has his jacket on. He's very professional. He's like straight laced. His hair looks nice. Yada yada. By this point in the movie, his shirt's untucked, his tie is undone. He only has 3 buttons, and none of them line up. And he's like on his knees, like sweating, like whatever. And as he's like freaking out, hey, he can't figure out who these people are. He's going through the bushes, and boom, that's when he finds the finger.
Yeah.
So, and then all of a sudden he's fine. He's like, everything's okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we're getting down to like close to the end of the movie here. I think this is where they get captured by Iacovetti. That's the guy's last name. Papa Joe, the Iacovetti family.
Yeah, Iacovetti.
I think they try and mess with Papa Joe, but it ends up going south for them.
Right. So
Yeah.
this is the part where Willem Dafoe knows who they are because he ran the print. And he puts it together because he remembers Rocco brought them clothes when they were staying in the prison overnight. So he puts that together. And then he goes to talk to the informant, which ends up being like the old, Italian crime boss who's now working in a bathroom, yada yada. So he goes to see them. He finds out that these guys are going to the Iacovetti place to take out the Italian side of things. But they don't know that everyone's meeting there because he has a whole bunch of hired guns for protection. And then this is where the movie gets super weird.
Dude, this is. I think my brother was saying last night. He was like, William Dafoe cross dressing was weird.
Yeah, and it's. I think it's more weird to me because it's obviously a guy.
Yeah.
When you look at it, you're like, okay, so like I know who Willem Dafoe is, so but like he's got the the shadow going on his face, he's got the Adam's apple, he looks like a dude. I'm like, I don't know, is this part supposed to be obnoxious or is it supposed to be like?
Oh my god, dude, this Italian dude, this he was either stupid, like clueless, or just desperate.
I was gonna say, yeah. If the second word isn't desperate, maybe he was into it.
That too, maybe. I don't know, but still.
He was into it all the way up to the point where the wig started coming off.
Yeah, you gotta stay in character, bro.
Oh my god. Dude, and well, this is also the part too where Rocco is killed off.
Yeah, and I don't get this point. So like, they're torturing him. They shoot off Rocco's finger, and they're like, "Yeah, these guys aren't going to talk." And then they just walk in and kill him. It's like, well, you could have just killed him before. Like, why the hell did you have to shoot off his other finger? I don't know.
Well, dude, I don't know. Like, I did not feel bad that Rocco ate it.
No, I didn't feel bad for Rocco.
Well, that's the bitter irony of all of them, right? They're not good people. They're not they're really not good people.
Like the McManus brothers were devastated. Like they were like flipping out, but like as a viewer, I was like, "Oh well."
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it too.
Yeah,
but like,
I was wondering if you guys would feel the same because I know you probably like the character.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was wondering, but I was like, I mean, he's all right too. I kind of liked him too. But then getting killed off, I didn't feel terrible about it.
So this part for me, when I saw Rocco get killed, the only thing I was concerned about was like, oh crap, maybe our boys don't make it out of this. That was like my first time watching through. I was like, this might be how the movie ends. Like they might not get out of this basement.
Yep.
This was about the time I went and threw up the first time I watched it.
Wow, this is like such a shitty spot to like leave the movie off. Yeah, I can see why you're renting it now.
That's why I rented it the very next day.
Yeah.
Kids don't drink.
but I mean, it turns out that maybe Rocco dying, might have benefited them in a way because we see Il Duce, I mean, I'll use a wrestling term here. Il Duce turns face, and he joins the Saints, pretty much.
Well, because they
Um,
find out he knows the same prayer, and
yeah.
they won't teach
Yep.
anyone else the prayer because it's a family thing. So now they realize that they're related.
Yep. Yeah. So they're kind of like, oh well, that changes everything. Then like Il Duce was doing the same thing that they were doing anyways too,
Just
which I
25
thought
years
was
ago.
yeah, which is I thought was oddly coincidental, but I like that they tied in the fact that they used the same family prayer.
Yeah,
That was a better way to tie them into one another.
better writing.
So now we're in the courtroom where Papa Joe is on trial, and he's pretty much just like, yeah, nothing's gonna happen here.
Yeah,
Not
he's
worried
being a
about it.
douche. He's being a douche.
He's like, I'm gonna get out of here as soon as I walk out.
Yeah.
But then the Saints walk in.
I
Just
want to stop right here real quick.
yeah,
So we knew Willem Dafoe was kind of on the sides of the Saints, right? Like we knew that.
yeah,
And then he went and rescued him out of the house. He helped him get out, yada yada. So we knew that he was already sold. However, the weird part about all this is not only was Willem Dafoe turned, he turned like every other detective and cop that was on the case with him. Did you notice? So like the beat
yeah,
detectives who were there, and then Greenlee were all like turned and into it and helped them get into the courthouse with their guns so that they could take care of this. So I
Mhm.
find it weird. You turn one cop, you're like, okay, one cop, but you don't turn five.
Yeah,
that was the
yeah,
only part of this movie where the writing didn't make sense to me.
yeah. I thought that was weird too because I was like, you wouldn't have the entire police force on your side.
I know, yeah, yeah. I
You,
mean,
you
I get
prob-
it. The police force is really up, like sick and tired of this dude just doing whatever he wants and getting off. I get it. But like,
yeah,
no, every cop isn't going to have the same exact feeling about like if we sneak these guys in, they can take care of this. Yeah, that was weird to me.
right, right. Um, but yeah, it just total chaos in this courtroom here. And Papa Joe's definitely unrecognizable after that.
Yeah, for sure. Because he had the two pistols
he
and
had
the
three of
shotgun.
them.
No,
Yeah, he had the shotgun on him too. Yeah, that's right. Dude, wild.
The dude doesn't. He's vaporized after that. So
Oh my god. But that was. I think this is another indicator too that they like really didn't know with what they had because like they just ended right there.
yeah. I mean,
Surprising ending.
they end it right there, but they also kind of preface it with, "We're the Saints, and like if you cross the line between like what's bad and what's really bad, we're gonna be there." So they kind of set it up because crime is inevitably still gonna happen, and I think it's wild that they were able to like finesse like a story to make a continuation where three guys go into a courthouse that's filled with officials and cops and everything else,
Mm-hmm.
execute a dude pretty much on live TV. I mean, they told them to cut the cameras, but pretty much on live TV because it was being televised before. And then they're able to get these three guys out and then make a sequel. Some 10, 15 years later. But they went into a courthouse, executed a guy, and then they get out, and then the story continues. I don't know. That's pretty wild to me.
Yeah, just a this is a really interesting movie. I think the rewatch on it is pretty easy.
Yes.
Like I had no problem rewatching this movie like just the other day.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think the first, like, I bought it, and I think I watched it a few times in the first week that I owned it.
Right.
I don't know. I think you're right. Like not only the rewatch, but like the entertainment value of this movie is high enough where not so much the rewatch value because you know what's going to happen, but you're entertained by the movie all the way throughout. The characters are really intricate. The writing is really good. The story arc is surprisingly straightforward, even though it's like really convoluted. But it's also like I think this is one of the first movies of its time where you know the outcome, and then they explain the situation afterwards. It's like you already know that the Russian dudes end up dead, but how do they get dead? And then they spend like 25 minutes building that scene for you. And I think it's really, it's really unique. It's really unique.
Yeah. No, definitely a unique movie. It's unfortunate. I mean, I know we're probably not gonna touch upon it, but that the sequel didn't do so good.
Sequels a miss hard.
Yeah, and the fact that they're doing a third one, they're starting production for a third one later this year.
And I think the only reason why is because they saw the numbers on the second one and they were like, yeah, this could go 3. But the only reason why the second one is so good because it has a cult following in the first one. But now, who knows? I mean, they did it with Taken. They did it with Taken.
You're gonna watch the third one.
I'm gonna watch the third one.
Probably. Yeah.
I feel like I'd much rather watch a series.
Yeah.
But part of what made the first one was Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
So, like, losing that character.
That was a tough thing for the second one, yeah.
Yeah, and then you get Rocco as like a ghost, but he's not a ghost, and I'm a ghost. I don't know.
Yeah.
The second one was tough to follow, and it was way too fucking long. Like,
yeah. Yep.
All right. So let's ask the question then. 1999, Boondock Saints, $6 million budget, $20,000 first weekend, not even $20,000. Does it hold up?
Yeah, I was actually gonna we can tie into that too. 1 out of 10, 10 being awesome and then 1 being absolutely awful. Like, what do you give the Boondock Saints?
9.
Oh wow, high score.
9.
Yeah,
the movie is fantastic. It's borderline untouchable if you take it with an open mind. The movie's amazing. It has the best characters, best character arcs. It's got really good villains. Like, they're cheesy, but it's supposed to be cheesy.
And relatable. Everyone here is pissed off, like, and they even touched on it. When someone who's obviously done a crime, or is at least in a space where he's just not a good person, gets off of a crime, everyone's pissed about that. So it's relatable in that sense.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the problems in this movie are still around today, where politicians are just like politicians and they're not doing anything.
Right.
But like, I also think it doesn't hold up though. Like, it's a 9 out of 10. It doesn't hold up. I think that the mentality of society in 2022 is not the mentality of society in 1999. So some of the jokes are taken more offensively than they are as just jokes. It's a movie. These are fictional characters. And I think the lack of technology makes it less relatable to younger generations. I think the area they chose, Boston, is a very stereotypically like
racist area.
Well, and just a bunch of fucking idiot. Like, this isn't something that would happen in modern Boston, but then, like, I don't know. You see, because there, like I said, there weren't any movies about this type of shit leading up to this. This was like the first mold. The only Boston movie I can recall is Good Will Hunting, and the most dangerous thing they did was they had a scrap at a bar. That's it. So, like, I mean, now with The Departed and everything out, maybe you know.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But like, before, you didn't really have anything to base it off of. So I think they did a perfect job in the sense of making the movie kind of comedy, kind of thriller, kind of drama, kind of action, but not one. And they did such a good job that the third-party trailer company couldn't even fucking cut a good trailer for it.
Without entirely giving away the movie, right?
They had to. Yeah, they gave away I think the most quotable, it might be the most quotable movie in the last, 25 years. And I say that knowing that Super Troopers is out there, but like, how many times do you hear it was a firefight?
Oh, yeah.
Or, I mean, there's so many quotes in there. It's tough to say that there aren't more better or widely quoted movies than that. I would say if it's not number 1, which it might not be, but it's definitely top 5.
Yeah. I mean, I personally gave it an 8.5. But I do think it holds up. But kind of what Georgie was going along with. If you're like our age, maybe a little bit older even, and you've never seen this movie, you could watch this movie and be thoroughly entertained by it. But if you're younger than us, and we're like right on the line, I think like if you're in your early 20s or something like that, mid-20s maybe even, when you watch this movie, there's going to be a lot about this movie that are just flags to you. And when Georgia was explaining that, the lack of technology, how many people that watch this movie now will see them get a page and then have them call on a payphone and then get the message from the page? How many people wouldn't understand what that process is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
How many people wouldn't understand how no one in the courtroom knew who they were after the fact, because there's not a cell phone in everyone's hand recording that situation. The only recording devices in there were the TV cameras that they turned off. And now everything that happened in that room is unknown to anyone unless you were there.
Yo, a good movie to compare that to is Shang-Chi, right? Remember in Shang-Chi when they were on the bus and the kid just whips out his fucking phone and he's
then
like,
all of a sudden
I'm
he's
gonna...
a million hits overnight.
That's what I'm saying. Like that part of it is like, I think it's easy for people to be like, this movie isn't real because like that would never happen nowadays. You know what I'm saying? When in reality, like in the 90s, bro, you relied on word of mouth for accuracy and news.
Yeah.
Now you can't rely on fucking anything.
No.
Yeah. Now I'll say I'm gonna be like probably the least nicest of the three. I'm gonna say 7 out of 10. It's definitely a movie I enjoyed. I think the issues I have with it is like, I think Mike, you mentioned earlier, like it's definitely convoluted in a lot of it, like plot wise. But one thing I like about the movie is that I think it shows that it really shows a big difference, like how different things were. You know, that was just the end of a decade, and then it was the start of the 2000s. But like you said, now like our age, we find enjoyment in it because we know like this is just a movie, like this is just fictional characters and stuff. Whereas maybe somebody watching it now in their early 20s or late teens or something like that, they'll find a lot of issues with this. Whether it be bad taste or not knowing what they're doing, like with like pagers and stuff like that. So this movie really showcases like the big leap we've had, in 20 years.
Yeah.
No. 7, I think is fair. 7.5, fair. I mean, the movie isn't untouchable. I gave it a 9 because I thought that, me and Mike kind of touched on this. The cast was good, not great, right?
See, I thought the cast was great for the low budget that this movie was.
If you want to look at it that way, that's fine.
Yeah. So I mean, like, you have $6 million to work with, and you land Willem Dafoe. You have to imagine, like, he's probably the most well known. They have to get people like, like Bob Marley, who's a very local comedian, but he probably did the movie for super cheap. You got Ron Jeremy in there.
Yep.
He probably was super cheap too. Everyone else was just kind of like little fill-ins and extras, right? Except for like Norman Reedus and a couple other guys,
Norman Reedus was still an unknown then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The casting on this, could you find better casting in 1999 to keep this a $6 million movie?
I mean, without knowing, no.
Definitely challenging.
It's a really hard question to ask 23 years later. It's a really hard question to ask.
Realistically, like when I watched that movie, I think that if they did cast bigger name, not like big names, but like bigger names for some of the villains or something, I think it would have been a little better. But casting was good. It wasn't perfect. Titanic was perfect casting, and that's what I compare perfection to.
Fucking Billy Zane.
Billy Zane, perfect villain. But outside of that, like, it was pretty ground level, so the effects didn't need to be good, nor were they. So it was fine.
And it was literally just everything was in like an apartment kitchen or in like a big room that they turned into like a police depot. There was like no big scenes that needed to be like really in a specific area.
And like, I thought the writing was great too. Like the writing is good. They don't get carried away with like when they're healing themselves, the cauterizing the wounds and stuff. They don't get carried away with it. It's just a fucking iron. They're just, they muted the sound because it wasn't going to be dramatic. It was just to show you like they're healing. And I thought like all of that put together, and then you factor in the budget. It's like this is almost a perfect film. Like you almost did exactly what you were meant to, and you're seeing it pay off over time. Where you're making they're already up to 20 million in DVD sales. They just signed an agreement with Amazon, so they're probably getting residuals there. Like if anyone involved with Boondock Saints 1, perfect film. But to me, I think it doesn't hold up, and that's why it gets a 9. I don't think it would hold up.
Okay.
I would love to see it get remade at some point in my life because I don't think it's untouchable. There are movies that are untouchable. This is not one of them. I would love to see this movie get remade at some point in my life.
Yeah,
not now.
I feel like the premise with some slight changes, because the reason why I gave it an 8.5 is because I think it's a really good movie, but I do think that the story has some flaws in some areas. I don't know. I feel like it could be the writing is really good and the lines are really great, but like there are some parts of the story where you're like, okay, how did they get there?
Right.
And that explanation could be better. And Doc, we need more Doc.
always more Doc.
Always more Doc.
We'll see what they do. I mean, two was a hit and miss, but I'm curious to see what they'll do with number 3. Which I would expect to be out probably next year, maybe late next year, probably. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's episode 10. That's our thoughts on the Boondock Saints, directed by Troy Duffy. So now we're gonna pick our next movie.
This is always the funnest part.
Yeah, or at least we're gonna work with the year, and you're gonna find out the movie in the next episode.
Well, we had to call it audible on this one, so let's hope.
So I'm gonna bring up either the wheel of fortune or the wheel of doom. What we're gonna end up working with. All right, guys, take your picks. Here we go.
Give me 1976.
Oh, 1984. Did we do that?
Is that the Terminator year?
I think we might have done that for the Terminator.
Yep.
We did.
Spin it again.
All right. Yeah, we'll cheat. We'll speed it. We'll spin it again. Oh, we're getting 2000. 2001. All right, we're gonna stick with that. All right, the next movie we're gonna be doing is from the year 2001. So I'll end it here, and you'll see what the next video is in the next episode. All right, guys. See you at the next one.
Take it easy, guys.
Peace.
And